you expect to be good. But then he has good normals. Um, oh, I get asked about this a lot. I've read this post like a million times. It's 10 years old. Yeah, his close strong is really good. His stand short is really good. The thing about Dan is all his normals are hidden on normals that you don't normally hit for other Shotos. Viscant has 1,001 posts. The thing about this post is that I think Viscant took a situation he knew a lot about, and I do think it's good, like when he talks about um, the really like the Vega and the Blanca and all that. Is that this post? This might be a different one. Um, but I think that he didn't really know enough about Third Strike to pick really interesting scenarios in that game. Let me actually read this so I can respond to it formally. In other SFs, other 2D fighting games, a distance character will make sacrifices of damage either for or against in order to achieve the desired position. In almost all versions of SF2, playing Dawson build a fair amount of getting hit on purpose just to get some kind of other objective. This is not in any game with parries. That's not really true. The thing about Third Strike is that um, they're still zoning, but it's different because it's a lot smaller. Like when you're like the range that I want to sit at Oro as Oro is way bigger, is way further away than most other characters. But it's like quarter screen, okay? Quarter screen is like my ideal position. Like I'm pretty close to my opponent. But I'm far enough away that their shit sucks, but my shit is still working. You know what I mean? And because the differences in distance are so small between their ideal position and my ideal position, there's much more rapid transfer between ideal positions. Like the opponent can very easily, like if I've got Makoto in her ideal, well maybe not Makoto because she doesn't move that well. If I've got no, all the examples I'm thinking of, they can't easily transfer positions. Like if I've got Remy in my ideal spot for him, he can't easily move forward because he sacrifices like charge. And that charge is important for other things. Not necessarily damage, but just ground control. He'd rather have the ground control than he'd have the ideal range. He'd rather just kind of just zone at my ideal range than move in and lose the low fireballs. Let me think. I feel like there must be a good example somewhere in the game. Maybe like Ken. Ken can forward dash, and it's pretty quick to resolve. And that little forward dash immediately puts him into his ideal range and puts me into my non-ideal range. From my ideal range. And I can't easily constantly be poking to keep Ken from dashing in because, like, he could either whiff punish the normals or, like, um, maybe like be at a range where it's all high parries, or even if I'm whiffing them in front of them, the whiff punish would be a lot easier. Even at a range where it either whiffs or he taps forward to parry it, which would be very unideal for me. But if I throw fireballs, even if he parries them, he can't really use that to get in, which is what I usually abuse with Ken players. Um, me read this. In the mid-range games, there are far fewer multi-level setups. ST Vega. A lot of the time I'm poking. I'm not trying to get any damage. If you happen to run into something, that's fine. I'm just trying to move you out of that space. That's how it is in Third Strike. That's almost exactly how Oro is. In Third Strike, that doesn't exist. Why would you back up? You can't damage me from back there. What would you gain? What would I gain by you jumping? You still have access to your strongest defensive option in the air, and for some characters you have multiple defensive options in the air also. That's like completely wrong. Definitely jumping is a lot safer in Street Fighter 3, but that's not a boon to Street Fighter 2. That's like a negative. That like removes the idea of a multi-level step. In Street Fighter 2, jumping is just like, I'm not going to say it's a bad idea because there are a lot of good jumps that you can do, but it depends on what your opponent is and what your opponent's trying to attack with, because some attacks, you know, if you jump at the right time, you get a punish on them. For example, fireballs and stuff. But you lose the ability to block midair in Third Strike, and that's actually a really awful thing because there's a lot of stuff you can do. Like, there's a lot of things that otherwise aren't that dangerous that are incredibly dangerous if you can't block. Like, I can make the opponent land. There's so many ways it can go. I can do like a jump back roundhouse, and even if they parry it, they don't necessarily get a normal on me. I can do repeated anti-air jabs, and they have to keep on parrying until like give up, and I just jab them. I can anti-air with like a command grab, and then if they're doing jump in parry, they land into the command grab and eat it. But if they do jump in like attack, they beat me. I can do anti-air stand strong, one hit, and then super jump cancel to safety, and they have to parry once and hit me to beat that. But if I do anti-air strong 2 hits, they if they only do one parry, the second it hits them, and then I get a super confirm. There's like a million directions that that can go, and most of them are bad for the jumper, or rather, it's worse for the jumper than the guy on the ground. Although it really depends. Some characters have better anti-air than others. Chun-Li's anti-air is not so hot. Ken's air-to-air is absolutely fantastic, and he enjoys when the opponent's jumping around. But like, it's a very mindless situation jumping in ST compared to Third Strike. Third Strike, the jumping is a huge complex situation with a bunch of mix-ups, kind of akin to footsies. And in ST, footsies like kind of almost end when someone jumps. It becomes like a punish situation. That's like not a good example that he just brought up. That's like a situation where it's a lot less complex and a lot less thoughtful and a lot less strategic. So I immediately disagree with that point that he's trying to make right there. That just strikes me as not correct at all. Definitely one, Aura plays a lot like ST Vega. Definitely zoning still exists. Like even if I can't hit from that close, there's still a range where one character is going to be doing more damage than another. High treble. There you go. There it is. And even if you suck a lot at one range, if you suck even more at a different range, you're going to be at the range where you suck a lot. And you're going to try and stay in that range, which is how a lot of characters play like Q. It's like Q sucks at a certain range, but he sucks way worse at another range. You're not going to be at the range where Ken does his absolute worst fucking pressure ever for you. Worst pressure for you. You're not going to stand at the range where, like, Ken gets his full mix-up and you get trash. You're going to stand in the range where you get trash, but then Ken kind of gets, like, moderate. Not even a mix-up, just, like, pressure. Low 40x fireball kind of stuff. I don't even know what he means by multiple offensive options in the air. I mean, I do know what he means, but I don't see how it matters that much. Oro has probably the most options in the air of like any character because you've got your double jump, you've got your air throw, you've got your 2-hit jump fierce. You've got like a lot of different things that can give the opponent a hard time. But none of them help like Air Stomp too. Air Stomp is the only one that actually helps against like hitting an opponent on the ground. Like contributes to the mix up, which is the important thing. He says there's no Vega type character in SF3, but there are actually a bunch of characters kind of like that. Remy's like that, Necro's like that, Aura's like that. Even the most basic element of position is useless in this game except for combos, because fireballs are mostly useless. You really can't use the stage as a weapon in this kind of game. That just kind of removes, like, stalematiness. I will agree that fireballs are kind of underpowered in Third Strike, but I don't think it hurts the game. The worst it can ever hurt that fireballs are underpowered is people don't throw fireballs, which really isn't that bad. But, like, if you're not throwing fireballs, that's not really ruining the game per se. I feel like in ST, when I play ST, there's so much just throw fireballs at fireballs. 12 is kind of like Vega. 12 definitely is very much a space control character. Unfortunately, he sucks. But, like, there's so much nothing in ST. And people dummy it up like it's super complex. When it's just like, yeah, you can be really good at Fireball Wars, and it can make you win. But it's so, like, it's like one moment every, like, 30 seconds contributes to one character, like, way down the line taking damage. And then also, you can try and break the stalemate by approaching with, like, a jump or, like, a neutral jump, or just trying to desperately control the situation using anything but fireballs. And then it's just like, you're at a disadvantage unless you get a really good read. Because you did that. Fireballs don't carry enough risk in Super Turbo. They're just way too spammable. And then the character throwing fireballs is also doing good damage in Dizzy if they're landing and building good meter even if they're not landing. And there's so many characters like that. It's like Chun-Li's like that, Ryu's like that, Ken's like that, Sagat's like that. Fucking Dalsim's like that. Dalsim has at least other ways of attacking which make him more complex, but that ended up making him really broken. There are definitely characters that use different parts of the stage, like different positions of the stage, depending on um, I honestly feel like reading that. I honestly feel like there are so many things that people just put up with in ST. And I don't think they ruin the game. I think that like you can have a good game that has boxer throw loops or old Sagat fireball loops, fireball traps. Like I think those are that you can have a lot of strategy with them. I think there's a lot of dead stuff in between the strategy. Um, but the thing is, there's a lot of stuff like that in 3S as well. That's kind of broken, but also kind of strategic. He always tries to sell parries like he always tries to sell parries like everything is ultimately like a 1 in 3 chance of success. And that's true to a very small degree. But like he doesn't take into account how ridiculously easy it is to punish someone who's going for like crazy parry fishing. There needs to be like a lot of non-parrying stuff for parries to be effective. Someone who's going for parries 24/7 is a sitting duck. And not even just for some characters, for like everyone. I also don't like his entire semi-grappler argument. I parry not that much for a person to my skill level. Parries are not that crucial. It depends on what character you play. Some characters are more reliant on parries than others for getting damage. And that doesn't just refer to low tiers and top tiers. Like Makoto gets a lot of damage off of parry. Urien gets a lot of damage off of parry. Urien doesn't have a great mix-up. Like he needs besides like except when he has meter, he needs parries to get a lot of his like damage in. So Urien will like always try for parries. It's better for him than most characters. But most characters are like I don't know. I'm not even contributing that much. I'm saying lots of I don't knows and not going into that much detail. Full screen fireballs shouldn't be good in any game. They knew they fucked up with ST. They tried to fix that like every single game afterwards. Full screen fireballs are literally like they don't contribute any thought to the game. He's like complaining that you can't, there's no purpose to throwing full screen fireballs because you can just parry them, but like, does it really matter? In what Street Fighter game ever can you be half screen or further and still be a good character? The fucking first example I can think of is Street Fighter 4. I guess any game Dalsim's in. Look at this. Half the fight for Ken, or for Ken's stage, is him trying to put you in the corner and then trying to stand on the dock pillar. By ceding this position to me, you probably lost the round right there. How is that strategic? How the fuck is that strategic? If I'm in the right position, I win instantly. Like, I see that that's not... I see that's different from damage being I win instantly. But, like... It's not like you don't try to control space or you don't try to get your opponent in the corner in any fighting game. It just doesn't result in like an auto win in other fighting games. It just puts you in a better position without just handing you a victory. In ST, it's so stupid if you're like playing Bison and you're fighting like a Ryu who gets you in the corner and then he just throws fireball after fireball and you're just sitting there fucking wondering when you'll ever get a chance to get out, but you won't. Or dare I say it, like a low tier character. If you're playing like Cammy or something or Blanca, it's like they're fucked. They're in that corner for the rest of the round. That's it. That's completely thoughtless. That's just once you know like the way to lay on the pressure is Ryu, you just win. That's not more strategic. I mean, it's strategic getting into that position, but that's just the same as it's strategic for me as Oro to try and get into a position where I can land Super 2 loops. Or like Makoto getting into a position where she can land Karakusa into Super 2, which doesn't work everywhere on the screen. Shit like that. Yurian getting into a position where he can like subject you to um, mirror pressure. It's not like fucking screen position doesn't matter in Street Fighter 3. That's completely wrong. Except it's more fair. You don't just instantly lose if you get out of those. You just have to deal with more mix-ups. There's nothing even remotely close to that in a game with a parry. Oh yeah, because parry just gets you right out of fucking Oro Stand Strong, Makoto's Karakusa, and Urian's Mirror. Parry just frees you immediately from Urian's Mirror. Quote, Viscant. This dumbs the game down tremendously. You no longer have to worry about stopping my drive for position, avoiding this kind of strategy. Wrong, wrong, and wrong. You no longer have to think about whether or not I'm sacrificing damage for position or going out of my way for some kind of throw move. I honestly do this. Like when I'm Aura versus Urian, I'm literally considering like doing more unsafe options. I shouldn't say unsafe, but like more. I will jump over Urian, okay? I will do a super jump, not even get remotely close to Urian, in order to escape the corner. And the ways that he can punish that are, in order for me to do a super jump, I take additional frames to leave the ground. It's got like a 7 pre-jump frames, which is kind of long for a jump. And he can either hit me, I can't parry during those 7 frames. He can keep pressure up, trying to prevent me from getting the start of the jump off. He can, like, when he sees me jump, he can do like a jump back button to try and chase the jump down. But I can parry that. But he can also, like, chase me down with like an autocorrect chariot tackle, which will have a different parry timing. Or like, there's like a million different ways that, like an anti-air fireball trying to catch me on my way up. There's a million different ways that he can mix me up for me trying to do that. But also, it's preferred for me to be subjected to that mix-up than it is for me to be in the corner block a chariot tackle and then be subjected to mirror pressure, from where I immediately have to deal with um, further mix-ups that are good for Urian. And that's what every fighting game comes down to, which is why I think this argument just falls on its face, is that the better player is the one who subjects you to more mix-ups. And he hates third strike because he thinks that the mix-ups are just like they're not the right mix-ups. But like I don't know. While I'm on the topic of character variety, you completely missed the point. For the sake of argument, let's say I agree with you. You're wrong about, by the way, since 3 of the 4 characters you listed play as semi-grapplers, but again, let's say for the sake of the argument that I agree. These character archetypes are in other 2D games, but the other characters can't be put into a game with a parry are into. Even pretending I agree with you, that's less half the character variety that shows up in even half-assed 2D games like CFJ and CBS1. He's... I hate when people talk about how ST is more balanced than Third Strike, because it's really not. It's... There are more examples of a low tier beating a high tier in ST, which makes everyone think that it has better balance. It's like, oh my god, Guile really fucking sucks against Dalsim, but maybe Guile versus fucking, I don't know, Boxer is actually like okay. Guile versus Vega is okay. It's like that doesn't mean the game's more balanced. The game gets as retardedly stupid at high level as fucking... There's like a lot worse matchups in ST. There's like 9-1s. There's not a single 9-1 in fucking Third Strike. There's fewer 8-2s. The difference in character, like... And there's top tier characters that just nullify like mid tier characters in both games. But like more so in ST. It's like there are characters that would be viable. Like Guile would be good if it wasn't for Dalsim. Fucking Ken would be good if it wasn't for Old Sagat. Chun-Li would be good if it wasn't for Old Sagat. Like shit like that. Like entire characters are just shit on. Just because like a top tier like prevents like completely gatekeeps them. And that doesn't happen as much in Third Strike. The clearest example is probably Chun-Li Oro, where an otherwise really strong character is completely shut down by a top tier. There's not that much of that in Third Strike, because Parry kind of prevents that from happening. I thought Akuma was hard banned. Vega's like a ridiculously strong character. Let's see here. Once again, I wasn't going to go in much detail because the amounts of ignorance are so high. I feel like he's the ignorant one. I feel like, I don't know how much he played fucking Third Strike, but like, he doesn't know a lot of the examples of the game. In both Third Strike and Super Turbo, who actually won that? In both Third Strike and Super Turbo, skill is more important than tier, even for really bad matchups, because the skill ceiling is nice and tall. But it's taller in Third Strike than Super Turbo, which means bad matchups can be triumphed more readily, even though the game is, even if the balance was similar. The reasons characters like Remy and 12 aren't in serious contention is because aspects are designed to take advantage of are completely out of play in the game. He's completely right there. Viscant is actually 100% right with that line. It's not entirely fair, as 12 wouldn't be a good character in any version of SF ever. I don't think that's true. That's just bad character design. But when you're fighting for position, what good does it do when the position you have is not advantageous in terms of damage dealing potential? They don't have to cede position at all because of parry. This is the fundamental problem I've been talking about, and you basically agree. Honestly, he should see like Remy versus like Urian, because that's an interesting matchup in which Remy literally sits full screen and throws fireballs. It's a very ST matchup. Or Remy versus a lot of the low tiers is like that. Remy versus Alex, Remy versus Hugo. The problem is Remy can't do that versus many characters, and that's poor design of Remy. But when you say that Remy is poorly designed, that's true. But fucking Cammy's poorly designed in ST, so like, what does it really mean? If you think a Remy trap and any kind of ST style trap are even close to the same thing, please watch B4 ST tape. That's also kind of true. Remy's not as... Like, yeah, Remy sucks, okay? I'll give him this point 100%. Remy is... He's more complex than he's probably giving Remy credit for. Remy's actually, like, decently complex and actually theoretically, like, pretty strong if you could fully unlock him. And no one's fully unlocked him because it's retardedly difficult. It's like charge petitioning everywhere. But that's just like an example of a character being poorly implemented into an engine, more so than it is like the engine itself being completely fucked. You can't be serious. Wow, other than low forward, core circle, forward, plus punch times 3, the characters have almost nothing in common. I don't think you thought this through at all. Billy Kane. Is he like comparing Fei Long and Yang? That's the only thing I can think of for that. I don't know what that argument is even saying. I thought you were going to do this, but you did that. In general, it's the only mind game there is. I actually agree with that line. Every game is about knowing what your opponent's character can do, then knowing what your opponent does, knowing his habits, knowing you can fool him with, and then kicking his ass from there. No, no, no. You don't even know what mind games are. It's only marginally acceptable as a mind game in the lowest possible level. For you to think that's all there is to it, just know. It's exactly what I'm talking about. You don't even know what this term means. You're trying to argue about it, just wow. You better elaborate into that because actually, I agree with the guy. Sounds like I almost thought this would happen, but it didn't. Sounds almost like I thought this would happen, but it didn't. Be it barging into your sweet range, getting your opponent in a situation where you can mix up timing for a dungeon without them reversing on you, or just good old-fashioned baiting an unsafe move they were sure would connect. It's the same thing. You make it sound like there's some high-level mind game that will always work on certain people and never on others, but that would be silly. I agree with that. He's quoting a line I agree with. No, it's not the same thing. In fact, these different levels of mind games are not even the same family. Baiting out something with a certain series of actions/inactions changes depending on the depth of the setup. People overuse chess analogy, but it's relevant here. In chess, you can make a move to make them make a move to make this happen and that happen, then you gain an advantage, be it a piece or position or whatever, but that's many moves in advance. Older 2D fighting games like ST had multi-level setups much like this. Let me think about that for a second. I don't know enough about ST to say that's wrong. That sounds right. Older 2D fighting games like ST had multi-level setups much like this. 3S has nothing even remotely close to this because Parry dumbs it down. You can't have multi-level setups because Parry will be there at any point in a defensive sequence. And not only is it an option, it's very often the best option. I don't see how that annuls the quote. Even if multi-level... I don't see how multi-level becomes more strategic. I see that it takes longer to come to fruition. But when does the opponent do the thing? When do they make the decision? And when do you make the decision? If you're setting up like a light fireball to then make your next hard fireball be a trap, it's fucking... What are they supposed to do about the light? Are they supposed to recognize it as a light fireball and then get out of that light fireball's way before the hard fireball, before that mix up? Or are they supposed to recognize the light fireball and then jump out? Or is there even a mix up at all? Where does it stop being, where does the mix up fit into this? Where does the multi-levelness and the mix-up... What is he... he took a situation where it was a guy talking about a mix-up, and then he starts talking about a multi-level setup. It's where in the setup does the mix-up happen? Because the mix-up is, what the guy said is, there's going to be a mix-up somewhere down the line, and that's going to be a 50-50. Or maybe not a 50-50, but, a percentage chance, literally luck. I don't see, the multi-levelness... No matter where the actual mix-up in that multi-level setup happens, it's still happening. It's the fundamental nature of a mix-up. It's the definition of a mix-up. There are multiple options you can take that will be better or worse for you, and you don't know which one is going to work. That's literally that's what a mix-up is. If he's just talking about throwing a meaty fireball and then throwing a hard fireball and there's nothing the opponent can do about it, that's not a mix-up. That's just a situation where you win. That's not fucking thoughtful. That's thoughtless. There needs to be a mix-up somewhere in there, and if there is a mix-up somewhere in there, then that means that there needs to be a degree of a guess. And if that guess is in there, then it's the same guess whether it fucking happens in a simple setup or a complex setup. I really think that's where everything falls apart, is he's acting like every fighting game isn't just whoever can subject the opponent to mix-ups. He's saying, he's right in this regard. Okay, listen to this. If you, in Super Turbo, you have better mix-ups. You have more opportunities to land mix-ups, and your mix-ups are stronger, and your opponent's mix-ups are weaker, depending on screen position, depending on the position you have in the match. That's true. Okay, that's 100% true. He's right about it. The error is that he's saying this doesn't happen in Third Strike, or it doesn't happen in every fighting game. It literally happens in every fighting game. If there's no mix-up, then it's 100% execution, like something that's just really hard to block, like fucking, I don't know, what's his face? What's the Doomsday? Doomsday's quarter circle back two. You know that move? It's like a low then a high really quickly, like a frame apart, and then you have to block low then high, like a really precise block. That's not a mix-up. You know how to block it. It's just whether you can do it. And if you can't do it, then you'll lose health or something like that. But like, there's a certain skill level. Let's take those situations out for a moment. Let's a certain skill level where everyone can block everything, unless it's a guess, and then they can only block it sometimes if it's a guess. Okay, that level of guessing is fundamentally the only way you can get damage on a good opponent in any fighting game, and that's why mix-ups are important. And it comes down to the skill, the actual skill in fighting games, is being in a situation where you can subject your opponents to mix-ups a lot, and they can't subject you to mix-ups at all. And he's saying that doesn't exist in Third Strike, but that exists a lot in Third Strike. That exists arguably like more in Third Strike than, I shouldn't say more, it happens more constantly in Third Strike than it does in SD. I guess it does happen more because characters have more health. Like, like yeah, parrying does kind of like make it so there's just a very defined, elaborate, specific number of ways out of a. Not really, because you don't have to go for a parry. Like, you can still block. You can still like. It's just an additional defensive option. It's not. It's like fucking. Imagine if there was rock paper scissors and then like another similar rock paper scissors with 5 options. It's like it would still play exactly like rock paper scissors. It would still be the same guesswork. It would just be there would be more that you could go back to. It's not like fucking because parry exists you can't block. All the existing mix-ups like are still there. Parries actually, in fact, the brilliance of parries is they lose to the same things that that blocking loses to. So they actually have like a really similar niche. That's actually like the most like curious and well-designed thing about parries, is that what beats a block will be like a high-low mix-up, like overheads and lows, a throw, or just pressure that like lets the opponent build bar, or like, I don't know. And the thing that beats parries is a high-low mix-up, because you have to choose a parrying direction. Except the parrying direction is harder because there are a lot of attacks that you can parry both. Like, you can only parry one way, but you can block it either way. Like if I'm Oro and I do stand medium kick, you can parry that high only, but you can block it low or high. So it's a lot safer to block, but also you lose the ability to punish. Stand medium kick is safe.